so that you guys have this for later. So that's what we want right there. Alright, so, you know, I've got my pure ref board, and what I really want to do today is kind of go about, you know, really blocking this guy out and getting this guy ready for what we're trying to do. So, alright. Let's hide this guy here. So let's actually block this this scene out. All right. So let's see, where would I start? I'm gonna start with his little bow and arrow case here. So it's, if you look here, you can see that that's it's kind of like a little pouch or whatever. All right, so we'll start with our cylinder here. And then we're gonna hit FC. I'm gonna hit E on the keyboard to rotate. Rotate this guy at 90 degrees like so. And then reduce the radius, the height. And then I'm just gonna rotate this guy in place. Okay, and I think our biggest problem right now is we don't really have any character to really kind of use to pose it. So that's something that, you know, we should probably rectify as soon as possible. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna find a base mesh. So you can go to turbosquid.com and then just find base mesh, or you can type in free base mesh. Right. You can just go in here, go for free, look for a free one. Right. So generally you want something that's relatively low poly, something with decent topology. This isn't bad topology. That's super, you know, you just want something decent, and whichever one I find, I will definitely give out. That's definitely not Link. And I want something a little more simple too, so I think I'm probably gonna go with this guy here, just cause he's super simple and I think he will he'll do. So I'm gonna hit download on this guy, log in. Oops. Let me I have a few assets on here, so I want to show you guys my info. Let's see. Let's go to TurboSquid again. Let me grab since I've logged in now. Base mesh. And then I'm just gonna go with my price once again. Free, and I like this guy. Just because he doesn't have any features yet, he's featureless, and he's, you know, he's kind of just good to go. In another video, I can show you guys how to make your own base mesh. They're relatively easy to make. You just need to make sure you have certain pieces and stuff in there that, you know, because this one's kind of symmetrical. You can kind of shape it to however you want. There's no real definitional, you know, markers or anything like that that say, hey, this character's this, or you know, you just want something simple and easy to use. So I'm gonna go to my downloads whenever you create an account, and hit show all. I'm gonna download this FBX, and I'm actually gonna throw it in the chat as well, just so you guys have access to it. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna throw it in reference gathering. No, not reference gathering, actually. I'm gonna throw this base mesh in here. Upload. So now you guys have access to that same base mesh that I'm going to be working with. And now I've got my mesh in my downloads. I just need to file, import and merge. I'm going to navigate to wherever that guy is. So boom. Let's hit all files, and then mail low poly. And then it's going to bring up this dialog, and I'm just going to hit OK. So here is our mail mesh, right? So these actually already pretty close to what Link is, so it's pretty interesting. So now we've got our base mesh in here. I'm gonna just rotate him around about 180 degrees, like so. And the beauty of this guy is that you know, what I would advise you guys to do is just do a basic pose for him, right? I've got my character here, and what I want to do is I'm gonna try to do a basic pose. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say W on the keyboard, bring him back like that. All right. And I'm going to select the character, and if the character was made properly, then you know, all you have to do is select that center line right here, and then I'm going to hit my drop down. I've got it, I should have it on here somewhere, but yeah, my Symmetry Modifier. I'm going to, if you don't have it where I have mine, I'm just going to hit this drop down list right here, right? Hit this drop down list, hit S on my keyboard. It's going to bring me to the S's. I'm going to hit the Symmetry Modifier, and right now it's on the Z when I know that I want it on the X axis. So now it's mirroring on my X axis right there. And the reason that that is cool, right? The reason that that's cool is because now if I hit this guy right here and I hit 1, so anything, whoops, let's throw an edit poly modifier on top. On my symmetry modifier. On top like that. So now what happens is anything I do to one side kind of affects the other, and I can work this way till I get to a certain point. Right, so I'm just gonna hit F on my keyboard. I've selected my character here, my character base mesh here. I'm just gonna hit grow on my, right, like that till I get like the arms, and I can hit E on the keyboard and then just rotate those guys and bring them down like that. Just kind of working with this mesh a little bit. So I'm just going to hit 2 on the keyboard, and then that allows me to then manipulate those, right? I can grab these guys like that. Just start manipulating. Hit W on the keyboard, and then I can select that guy. Let's go right. Should have a relax function, soft selection. And a lot of this stuff, right? If you're, if you're having trouble working with the geo, what you can do oftentimes is turn on use soft selections. And soft selectors are pretty cool because what it allows you to do is it allows you to kind of manipulate things within a threshold. So if you look at my selection here, you can see that it's got this little rainbow threshold right here where I can increase this fall off value right here, right? And it affects that. So I'm gonna hit 2 on my keyboard, and that gives me that. So now if I rotate, I can actually So if I have effect back facing turned on, so now I can just select this guy. Let's increase this guy like so. Effect back facing. Actually, let's start at the elbow and then boom. Let's see the edge distance. So you can pinch it. What I want to do is I want to use that to, it kind of acts like a localized selection. So now, as you can see, whenever I move, these parts around, like so. Deform it too much, so I'm probably just gonna skip the soft selection aspect of it and then use the actual polygons. So I'm just gonna go in like the node 4 over here and then reduce this selection. All right, and I can change the rotation to where it's rotating it locally, then move. You just want to figure out how you're gonna get these arms down by a side, Okay. So it's not too crazy. So that's it. All you're really doing is moving his arms down by his side, so that shouldn't be too ridiculous a task for you guys to do. It's nothing crazy. He's facing, and that's part of the reason why I chose this, this kind of stuff, because it's guys like, we'll have to deal with some stuff, but we won't have to deal with all the crazy things like facial expressions or anything. He's had his turn, so we can just make a little mesh for the hair and then the ears and stuff like that, and maybe show you guys how to do some wrinkles and clothing and different things like that would help sell our model over here. So we've got our base guy, human base. I'm just gonna call this guy Zelda base mesh. Zelda base mesh. All right. So now we've got our guy like so, and since we've got our Zelda, let's go P like since we've got our Zelda base mesh, now we have things that we can now attach to this guy that's gonna work, and you know, it'll start to feel more and more alive. All right. Okay. So now we've got our and like I said, you can hit Alt and X to go into X-ray mode. That's how you would get to see that guy. 1 second. Take a drink. All right. All right. So another thing that we started blocking out last week was this this bow and arrow. So I'm just gonna select those two, hide my selection, and what I want to do is I'm gonna go into my create panel over here, and I'm gonna use a line segment, and I'm gonna start from this top. I make sure, like as you guys can see, I'm in my front view, and whenever I click, I place a point down. Whenever I click, I place a point down, and as you can see, it's waiting for me to click again to place this next point down. So when I click again, boom, I can place another point down, right? And as you can see, these points that I'm placing down are angular, right? But that's not the only option I have when it comes to selecting and making splines. If I want to, I can click down and hold down, right? And it starts to give me what they call a Bezier curve or a Bezier handle. So now I can then let that go, right? As you can see, it's still got some of that, but if I click again and I only click once, it's gonna make me another straight line. All right, so that's the idea of a spline tool in here. So I'm gonna click that. All right, but this isn't generally the best way to do this, because what we're doing is when we start it like this, we're modeling this guy from a perspective view that can be off and can be wrong if we're not careful. So what I usually like to do is then try to hunt for some reference of this model, right? You would try to hunt for some reference for it, and then you would make it one for one. But this is just for our blocking purposes, right? This is for our blocking, so this is fine for now. And whenever we get into the final one, you know, whenever we're getting into making the actual mesh for it, we're gonna want it to be more accurate and more real to the world. Okay. And I think this is his quiver, and then this is his blade handle or whatever. This is a sheath for his sword. So my eyes deceived me there. So now I just want to create this next line to represent the line of the string. Okay, so now I can go in here, and then I'm going to drop down this rendering view. I'm just going to select like so. And then I'm going to attach this guy to it. Like so. So now if I unhide all, imaginary link, then I can bring this guy back here like so. All right. And then I can just select my line here because it's supposed to be, you know, it's supposed to be around him like that. And then what I can do is I can take these guys and then change them into Bezier handles. So select this guy. So now if I rotate, you can see that I can make, all right, if I rotate like that, it kind of gives it like a bend, like a string would actually have. So I can select this guy, and then bring it here like so. So have them meet, and then just select those points again, and I can just rotate them out, right? So to give myself that Alright, so I'm just gonna keep it moving here. Just gonna rotate this guy. This guy's kind of straight, so. And you can see that they're probably doing some sort of, manipulating, but we just needed that to be like that, and then I can just select this guy. Alright, if you guys can't see what let me show you guys what I'm doing. So I'm just selecting this guy, and all of these keys, so I've got one if I want to select my vertices, I've got two if I want to select the edges, and then 3 if I want to select the entire element. So if I select 3, I'm selecting the element. So now I can just detach the string just so I can make it look a little more string-like because it was kind of thick. So, and then enable this guy. All right. So this is our sheath, and it's not going to be like that. No, actually. What I'll do is I'll reuse it for our quiver. So now I'll hide selection, and then I'll use this guy for our quiver like so. Right, that's the placement of it. And then let's unhide all again, and then let's unhide all. So we can use him to, it's kind of like a marker. It's a little shorter than that, so I'm just going to reduce the height a little bit. So now I'm just going to pull it up to where the actual quiver is, rotate like so. So you can see I'm starting to block this guy out and kind of give him a little bit more shape, a little more life. Might want to bring the arms in a little more. Just might want to bring them in. Use a little soft selection. Fall off. It's only effective like that, and then just view. Alright. And eventually we're gonna have to make it asymmetrical, but making it symmetrical for now, it will be more than okay. All right. And so, this is another technique that, concept artists and people like that can use is, if you don't know how to solve for something in 2D, if you can't get the perspective right, or something's going on and you have a tight deadline, what they'll do is, if they have some 3D skill, they'll quickly pose it in 3D, so it gives them that feel, it gives them the dimensions, it gives them the perspective, so they don't have to do all that, and then they just draw and paint over it with all of that being solved in 3D. It's just another tool in their arsenal. So this guy has kind of like a weird shape, so I'm just gonna hit 4x4. This is really just quick roughing out, and this will generally not represent the final mesh, but it helps you kind of see what you're getting yourself into. So it's just basic shapes, basic objects, and then I can use a box to represent, right, our boulder over here. Alright, so I'm just going to right click. Well, actually, let's just throw an edit poly modifier on top of this guy, and I'm just going to bring this guy down like so. Like so. Alright. There we go. So it feels more like he's standing at the edge of it. Alright. These 4. Alright, so I'm gonna hit F4, Alt 1, Alt X. This just adds a swift loop to everything. Actually, change this to my default. Hang on 1 second. Okay. So Alt N1. So if you go into your loop tools, right, you've got a bunch of different things that you can do in your modeling tab here. You can ring things, loop things. You can dot ring, dot loop, which is essentially, if I select this edge and I wanted to select every other edge, I can hit dot ring here and it'll select every other edge. And the same for dot loop. If I wanted to loop and I wanted to skip a line, I can have it dot loop everything. So these are little things that that you'll use and need throughout your modeling career. So another thing is, if you ever wanted to just throw an extra poly in here, the easiest way to do that is to go, you can do a swift loop, but that requires you to have all your geometry right and welded, and or you won't get a continuous edge. So as you can see now, I can, it shows me where I want to, and I can place it wherever I want. If I hold down shift, it's going to find the center, and it's going to try to it's going to try to average where this how this stuff is supposed to go. It's going to try to find the center for me. So as you can see, it's going to try to average those normals out, right, because of how it's going. So if you just want to stick it in one place, just click on it, but if you hold down shift, it'll give you that with the average normals and stuff like that, and it'll try to conform to the average of that shape. So what I want is something in between. I just need some polys in here, just to help me build some of this shape out. And then the cool thing about 3ds Max now is it's kind of cool with modeling, because now you can you're just pushing and pulling things out, and I'm just making nonsense right now. Alright. Alright, so we've got our faux boulder thing in here. Alright, so if I hit Alt and X, you'll see that we've got this guy in here now, looking super boxy and super blocky. If we wanted, we can throw a turbo smooth on it. It's not really going to do anything. Just make our boulder a little wobblier, you know. But you guys see the point. You guys see where I'm getting to. We're just kind of blocking this stuff in. Nothing too crazy. So now, let's. I'm gonna actually use. I'm just gonna actually duplicate this guy. Right, to use as our ground plane. I'm just gonna hit Shift, drag, copy. Hit 1 on the keyboard. Go back into our Edit Poly Modifier. Turn off this turbo smooth that I've got on here. It's just a smoothing algorithm that the 3ds Max has. It's just one of their smoothing. Just gonna use this here. So, it's just using what I got already to make it, because it's already got some, you know, some of those shapes that I've already drawn in there, and I don't want to waste my time having to redo it if this isn't going to be my final mesh or anything like that. It's just going to be something rough. So yeah. So now we've got that, and we've got our base. So what I can do is, you know, I'm just going to use this as a basic shape for our mountain. Right. Like I told you guys, this stuff isn't that like ridiculous to do. It's just pushing and pulling polys around, and you know, see what you get. And this is just a study anyway. You know, we're just kind of studying the shapes of what we've got right now. So I'm just gonna hit 1. So I hit turbo smooth. That's what I get. Alright, another thing I can do is I like to, sometimes this is it's a cool little feature. I'll throw a FFD modifier on here. I just hit F on the keyboard when I go to my modifier list here. So I just hit F and it drops down this modifier list for me, and I go FFD 4x4, and it gives me this cool little cage. And if I hit 1 on the keyboard, it activates these control points that I can use as an overall kind of sculptor for my object, and I can then use that to pull and manipulate my mesh if I need to. All right, so as you guys can see, you know, I can get some pretty cool effects real quick just by, you know, using some of this this push and pull function and not actually going into the mesh itself. So now, you know, I'm already working with something, and not, you know, I can scale this out like so. Right. Turn that on. Right. So as you guys can see, I'm already, you know, I'm already looking better than I did last time. You know. So let's go back to our FFD modifier, and you know, the cool thing is, you know, with these controls, whenever I'm done with them, all I'd have to do is so I'm just gonna raise this guy a little bit higher, bring this guy down a little bit. Just pushing and pulling these guys. All right. So I'm just pushing and pulling and kind of seeing what I'm getting from the model. So if I hit Alt X, I can see through again. All right. Alt X. All right. And the cool thing is, like I said, once I throw this on, I can throw that guy on like so. I can throw another FFD modifier on here, right? And then just continue going as I like. So now I can just, you know, I know you guys probably don't know because this is all new to you guys, but you know, this is just some common workflows and different things like that. And I can just throw another poly modifier back on this guy, Alt X, you know. All right, it's not perfect yet, but it's a start of something, you know. And then I can throw FFD modifier on this guy as well. So I'm just gonna hit T on the keyboard, hit 1, select. And right now, as you can see that my my scale tool is doing some weird stuff because it's on select and squash. What I want is just this uniform scale tool right here. Just gonna make my boulder a little rounder. All right. And just scale in. All right. So now we're starting to get somewhere. We're starting to cook with a little fire and grease, and you know. And whenever I'm modeling stuff like this, what I like to do is I like to start assigning like base materials and stuff, just so that whenever I'm looking at something, I know that you know, it's kind of fitting and working the way it's supposed to. So if I hit M on my keyboard, like so, I'm just gonna start adding some physical materials here, and I'm gonna, you know, turn up their roughness because what I'm using for is stuff that's not supposed to be shiny. I'm just gonna double click on one of my materials here, and the cool thing is if I want, I can hit perspective. And what I want to do is I want to select from this, the rock, probably some of the sunny parts, and use that for our rock here. So for our mountainside piece. I'm just gonna, whoops. I need to have it shown. I need to have it shown. So now I've got my little color picker. So to get to here, all I did was I double clicked on my material, my physical material that I selected, and in my base color and reflections parameters, I'm going to select this first guy right here, which is your base color. I'm going to select that like so. And this eye picker right here, this eyedropper right here, you select that, and then you can hover over to where you want to select, and then just select it. And then it places it in that basic material slide. And then you can just assign it to your rocks and stuff like that. All right. So now we've got our simple-ish base mesh, our little rock formation. Just gonna, right. So we've got a little something here. All right. And I'm just turning it to match, you know, what I'm thinking I'm seeing in the camera's eye, right? And that's where you guys are going to start having to use your discretion as well. You know, at the end, we're going to throw some grass and stuff in here, and we're going to maybe make some littler boulders and throw those in here in the mix as well to have, you know, And the problem the first problem I see right now is you can tell, repeating geo, like because I use these same two pieces, the same geometry structure is still there. So if you see like this little wave of geometry right here, it also exists right here. So what you might want to do is, turn one of them, so you're not getting the same, geometry, and it doesn't look like it's something that is repeating. It gives you a little more variation, even though I'm using the same rock formation. All right. So yeah, that's part of it. All right, so let's move on. We're creating some of these little shapes, and we're creating some of these pieces, and I think we got 10 minutes left. I think that's going to be enough for you guys to chew on today. I feel like a lot of you guys haven't gotten to open up Max and do some of this stuff, so this is what I want you guys to get to, right? You guys should have made your blocking. You should have started your blocking by blocking out a lot of those shapes. Now the next step is kind of, just blocking them out some more, right? Blocking, this is like the prep for the project. So prepping is very important before you start modeling, so you get an understanding. And for you guys, the prep for you is also learning the software. So this will help you learn the software, maneuvering around and having to figure stuff out. Watch these videos once again, watch this video back to back, and I've got my keyboard up, I've got everything up for you guys so that you guys can follow along as best as possible. You see where my mouse strokes are going, you see what I'm using. Yeah, all you've got to do is, and part of it is just finding this base mesh. The base mesh which is already in the Discord. You can find it, download it there, use that, bring it in. It should match our link already because we did the height and proportions correctly the first time. So yeah, let's get this guy up and running. I know you guys are probably like, oh my god, this guy's trying to kill us, but you guys picked it. I know you guys are probably gonna feel a little overwhelmed, but don't, I don't expect you guys to all, knock this out of the park or something like that, but I expect you guys to try. I expect you guys to attempt it. I expect you guys to give it a valiant effort and actually, just lose yourself for an hour or two inside of 3ds Max and modeling and figuring out what stuff is and stuff like that. So I promise you guys will not, you won't be disappointed. You will definitely grow to enjoy it as much as I do, because, it starts small. Like I said, it starts with a pencil drawing, then blocking out, then adding pieces, and once these pieces start falling in place, you're gonna feel like, oh wow, that's all it is. That's all this job is just finding. You're like, if you've ever done collages, or you've ever you're just finding, or if you've ever made a diorama or something like that, it's kind of like that, where you just find all these pieces from different places. Sometimes you make some of the ones you need, you use some of the systems that are in here, and before you know it, you've made a really cool picture, or you've made a really cool graphic, or you found a way to carve a niche for yourself where you're making money, and you can feed your family, because there's just so much that you guys can do with this stuff, and I would hate for you guys to feel like you're not getting anything out of it. So hopefully this stuff isn't getting too much for you guys, because I know after the first week, when all the butterflies and all the honeymoon phase is over for us, you're gonna feel like, oh my god, this stuff is really hard, or this stuff is really tasking. You're not learning the tools as fast as you think you should, and it's okay. It took me a while to understand 3ds Max and really, really figure out what was going on in there. And that's, and I was in school, and I got a chance to really, really just play with it and just kind of explore and see what everything was. So this is your time to do that if you really want to do this. Explore, figure out what you need to do, move, even if it's, you learn how to create a box 100 times, right? By the 100th time, you're going to know, I can do that.
with no hands down. I know what to click. I know where to, because a lot of this stuff turns into muscle memory and knowing the problems that you've encountered. And I need you guys to encounter those problems so that we can move past them and you guys can be a lot better. And if you don't try, you're not going to encounter the problems that are going to get you the solutions that you need, right? So just keep learning, keep getting better. I know it's going to be frustrating and hard when you're trying to do something and it feels like you just don't know what you don't know, so yeah, just keep pushing, ask questions. I got some messages from you guys that some of you guys had breakthroughs while you were working and some of you guys were frustrated. That's all part of the process. That's part of it. It's important for you to understand that this stuff is hard to a certain degree, but once you understand it, it's like a language that you learn to speak. Once you learn the language, you just have to keep brushing up on it and speaking it, and you guys will be awesome at it. So, does anybody have any questions for me?